Hello. Hiya. Um, this is my Sunday evening code therapy. We're going to experiment with something a little bit different. I'm going to start playing some CC licensed music. Um, and there's been some disagreement about this foray into multimedia on the chat. Some people like it that there's no music. Some people find it's a bit like suddenly a masked gunman is going to come out and get them. Um, it's like tension building. Some people like to play their own music. So what I thought I'd do is start with something relatively meek. Um, that wasn't it. Incidentally, it wasn't just the collected works of iPhone bleep noises. Let's see if I can keep it going. Go. So this is our Sonor. I realise immediately that this was not the best name for it, but it was the first thing that I found on. There we go. On the Free Music Archive. Actually, here's their page, and the CC licensed with a attribute. Is that right? License, and that means that you can use this music too, even though it's not necessarily on the Twitch music stream. It's got this nice sort of chill background feel to it, and also it's the first thing alphabetically on the music archive. So for those of us who have really poor musical taste, that seems to be a fine algorithm to use. So if you've not joined Code Therapy before, we're the chillest programming session on Twitch. We're also broadcast to YouTube, and the idea is that I've always found therapy actually quite relaxing. I have kind of a stressful job working at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and I'm not a professional programmer, but whenever I find myself a little clouded in with the rest of the world, I go and concentrate on a tiny bit of code and explore some new ideas. And that's what we're doing here. We're actually exploring a relatively new language called Elm. And Elm is a a web language, so it compiles to JavaScript, and that means you can write little simple web apps in it, or even complicated ones. And it's also functional. It's functional. It's immutable. It's strongly typed, and these are things that really you only get from. I think F sharp is probably the closest you get to these combinations. They're not things that are generally pursued in modern web languages, certainly. Um, but they are kind of the cutting edge for a lot of people about working out ways to make programming both comprehensible, so the complexity of programming doesn't blow your mind and everything fall apart, and also, frankly, kind of fun. I mean, for those of us who've been working on C-like languages for the last years, having something really new to wrap your mind around has been is kind of fun. And the program that we're trying to build is a simple game. It's called Dual N Back. It's actually a memory game, and as well as earning you valuable points in the Dual N Back universe if you win, um, it also improves your memory. Also, scientists believe improves your working memory and improves something called your fluid intelligence, which I've yet to actually really find out what that means. Um, the idea is these blobs come up, and when you see a blob that is the same as the blob two goes behind, you go, oh my god, and you, in this case, hit the A key, and that gives you a score. And at the same time, although we haven't really gone into this yet, you also have things saying things to you in audio, and you have to do the same thing. And sometimes both the position and the audio match something that had happened previously, and sometimes one of them does. So we've been writing this in Elm. it's actually pretty short, but that's partly because we haven't really done a great deal. This is our version here. It's not much to say, actually. It's looking pretty close to what it's supposed to look like. We've got a little cheat here that's telling us when the end back button should be pressed. And you can sort of see, oh, let's look for the next one. End back, right? Because that was the same as that last move but one. So it's working pretty well. I actually just noticed a bug here in that when it's the same symbol in a row, you don't actually see that it's disappeared. We kind of need a pause in there. Huh, that's interesting, because I have a couple of choices about what to do for this session. Let's have a look. Here is my dual end back notes. So when we last left dual end back, we got this timer thing working, and really we had to think about, well, we need to create some other states. We need to create a thing that says, hey, do you want to start playing dual end back? And then something that ends it after a few sessions. So that's what I was planning to do for today. And then I was like sitting watching, as you do, some videos about monads. I'll tell you which ones they were, because, you know, if you go to hamster, monad.com, X monad, no, that doesn't work. To do monads. One of them was by I don't think gonads. Good title. So this is pretty good. This is, I'm not going to play it, but this is by Doug Crockford. Stick that actually in the links so I can put it in the notes for this session. Doug Crockford, JavaScript God. Oh, I'm using the wrong keyboard. JavaScript God explains monads using slightly dodgy Spanish swearing. That's pretty good. But the one that I actually really like is, I think I'm only going to be able to find this by searching for monads. Is this guy, Brian Beckman? Don't fear the monad.
Brian.
Hi, Brian. I like his hat and I like his style, and I'm only halfway through this. It seems a pretty good way of explaining monads. Anyway, while I was watching these, I suddenly had this like moment of, well, gosh, hi, color change each time. Yeah. Well, although maybe that's like a thing that, yeah, let's put it in the notes anyway. Let's put it. You know what? Why don't we actually use issues? Let's create a new issue. Hard to tell when new turn happens when card is in same place for each turn. It's previous turn. It's to be a clear transition between turns. The moment when the position of the card, the moment if the card doesn't change, it's not clear that there's a new turn at all. This makes counting the number of turns, and therefore remembering the end back card difficult. Okay. Here we go. Gosh, that's kind of exciting. I've never really used GitHub as an issue storing thing. Tom Stewart's talk about monads. Why don't we stick that in as well? Okay, Tom Stewart. Is that one the way he says it's not a... Oh no, here we go. Ruby. Is this the one? Looks pretty popular. Stick it in. Microsoft God. I assume he's a Microsoft God. He seemed pretty good. Experience moments in terms of C Sharp. Okay. Tom Stewart's Ruby explanation as recommended. Again, I'm using the wrong keyboard. I do apologize. You really need the nice clunky noise of the mechanical keyboard, I think, just to keep yourself awake. As recommended by UCOTN. Okay. So while I was thinking about this, I suddenly had this like crisis of confidence about how we are storing the deck of cards. So right now we do this quite complicated thing to like randomly pick a card, but in certain circumstances pick a card that is the that matches the card 2 cards back. And we kind of rig this a bit because otherwise it's too improbable for the end back situation to crop up. It's too unlikely. I was sitting there going, gosh, we do a lot here, and it feels like there should be something simpler. The thing that actually particularly nags on me is in this situation we have to subtract 1 from the number of cards we're going back, because we're sort of doing that calculation in the middle of that we're adding a new card, and it just seemed really messy. And while I was watching the videos, I was thinking back to the thing that people say, which is that you should make the type system bear the weight in these sort of languages to a lot of the abstraction that you're trying to achieve. And the advantage of that is, so the type system in Elm and other languages is pretty powerful. It's more powerful than, say, C or Python, where you just sort of say, well, it's a string, or it's int, or it's an array of these things. You can do pretty complicated things. And one of the nice things about that is this gives you this characteristic of these languages that they will often not compile if you get something wrong. And that's something that when you first begin using them is incredibly frustrating, because you go, I'll do a hello world, and it says wrong types. You go, what? Can I not even compile? And then after a while, you actually kind of like it, because it means that if you get to the point where it compiles, you're fairly safe. I say that a lot. But what we have here is an awful lot of logic. And what I was thinking, and I don't know whether to make this session today about this or just about describing the general structure of the rest of the thing. And I think I'm gonna mess with this because it's more fun. So what I was thinking is, like, right now, a card is basically just this record here. You can see. That tells you where the card is. I was thinking, well, you know what? You could have a situation where you basically say normal card has a position, or position matches back, or audio matches back. This is assuming we do both of them. I just want to test it out. Or audio and position matches back. And the advantage of this is that we don't have to actually look back to the old one, only when we're drawing it. The only time we ever actually have to look back to see what that is would be then. And also, like, the logic is totally determined for us, right? We don't have to spend our time like looking back all the time to find this. Everything that we need to know is embodied in that card. We don't need to know anything else. I guess we could even embed the position into it, but I don't even think we need that. And I kind of like this. It simplifies this logic a lot, and I have a feeling it's going to make things a lot clearer. So we don't actually do an audio matches back right yet, so I'm going to skip that. I'm just going to have this, and then this means that to get the actual position, you're going to need to. Well, I don't think we. Let's keep that off as long as we can. All right. So in this situation, then we actually can simplify a bunch of stuff. Let's see if I can do it in one go. So for one thing, the random generator doesn't need to return model card anymore. It can just return a card, and what it will do is return, make a default position this head, blah blah blah. Okay, so what we do is we just say random card needs, doesn't need anything actually, it just needs a So you see what I've done here. It's not going to compile. I hope it doesn't compile. That would be scary. But what I'm saying here is now we've collapsed this to something which either if a is smaller than 0, because we do a random int from -2 to 8. Then return the position matches back. Otherwise a normal card. So that's pretty simple. Makes a lot of sense. We do this. This makes sense also. Then we'll probably, hey dashboard. Let's follow what it's telling us. Oh right, okay. Right at the beginning, man. Copy. Type aliases only work if you're doing a fairly simple type. After that, you kind of want to define it in terms of. All right. Show card or not, mismatch its definition. It's a maybe card. Interesting. Yes, my cat is a Siamese cat, and I didn't used to be a fan of Siamese cats, but I admit I have rather fallen in love with this one. They are very chatty, but after a while you begin to understand what they're doing, and it doesn't sound like they're just a yowly seal. They actually feel like they're talking to you. And it's also bliss when they stop and start purring, so it may be kind of, you know, using the stick and the carrot from the cat's point of view. Alright, so we're running maple cell, HTML message, type annotation is saying that. Yeah, so this is where we need to, and maybe we should start tweaking. Where is that show code or not? I'm surprised they even got that far. So is position the same is totally easy. Is the position the same just becomes, don't need that. This just needs to be is it position? Yeah. Okay. Saying okay. All right. Yeah, this makes sense. We need to change this. Just make it a bunch of normal cards. Actually, why don't we make this one? Is this the front of it? Yeah, it is. So position matches back. Okay, now we're back to, I think, show card or not. Show card or not. Oh, interesting. This is pretty deep in the... Oh, so it's looking here for the position. So what does it get given? It gets given a card. And this is where we need to have like just a function that says card position. That side. Probably playing Pokemon Go. I think that's pretty much what everybody in this city is doing. Oh, excuse me. 1 second, I'll be back in a moment. Do. Hello, I'm back. I'm just, like you can see what I see of you. Let's get my view of you. Hope everything returned to normal. Still learning. What is the biggest on-ground danger to the open web? Oh my god, you're actually doing what I say. That's a really good question. One of the things that we're sort of obsessed with at the moment, me and Corey, is the effect of DRM is, and that's possibly not. I mean, there's a lot of complicated factors to it, but that's the one we're concentrating on, because it involves locking in parts of the thing that separates the open web from the rest of the ecosystem into the browser. But I wouldn't. That's sort of the thing where we have the opportunity to change things. It's also very complicated and tied up with the legal regime. But I think there are always economic challenges too. And I think within a lot of the advocates for the open web, their fear is that it's the app ecosystem that is drawing attention away from it. But then you have to start thinking about, well, what makes the open web the attractive environment that people want? Like, you have to go a bit further. There's no point just defending the open web if the open web changes into something that we don't want, which is how the risk with DRM, I think, is you end up in a situation where you have an open web, but you can't copy and paste or do anything with it. You can't move stuff around. Or if you enter into an app system, I mean, maybe there's an environment where apps actually still provide some of the liberty, the civil liberties capabilities of the open web. So I think depending on how you structure that, then you begin to see, okay, this is the risk to this part of the open web, and this is the risk to the rest of it. So the other thing that I personally worry about a lot is centralization. There's no point having a web if the web is just Facebook, Google, and a couple of other companies, and all of the data is stored in those environments, and all the links that you go to are mediated through those. And so we just had a conference. So we go, which was the sort of decentralization conference in the Internet Archive. And that was getting a bunch of people who are worried about this to come together and share their projects, and also see if we could work together on it. Corey does a really good speech about EME and DRM in this, and you can watch those videos. Not now, but you can watch them. It's a little blurry, Tim Berners-Lee, and that's that aspect of it. And I've been worried about that for a long time. Well, not worried, but trying to find opportunities that has pushed through that. Wow, there's a lot of. I'm not sure. That sounds like just someone treading on cymbals. I'm not sure I like that one, Sonor. Let me switch to the next track. Yeah, the fact that the open web, and of course now I'm playing completely into this, is an executed environment rather than a series of document pages, and so that's of course what Elm constructs, right? JavaScript constructs pages. Websites that only work with JavaScript are a very different thing from the sort of document-centric web that we have. I don't worry about that so much from a civil liberties point of view, because there's a lot of potentially nice things about having an open executing environment, but particularly because there might be a way in that environment where you can run the JavaScript in a closed environment, or a constrained or sandboxed environment, and then transform that into a document. But I think it's a separate issue, and I really understand people who are worried about it. Hello, caller. Kdex_Einlein. What kind of web apps are the thing? Let's have a look. I only see a little bit of your. It is totally a niche. Don't worry. not pretending that this is something that you should immediately start doing very complicated commercial work on. Really, the I sort of feel if you've watched Rust developing, I feel that Elm is kind of in the place that Rust was about 6 months before, 6 to 8 months before it stabilized. So, so really, the kind of stuff that you can see it right now is just very simple stuff, like a sliding puzzle and things like that. Evan, who is I think the what is going on? Evan, who is the primary sort of person behind it, works for Prezi, and Prezi is a pretty amazing Flash tool for presentations. And I think there's a sort of understanding that one of the things driving Elm's development is to try and widen out Prezi and turn Prezi into a web executable app, and that would be a fairly major project. If you go to the Elm Slack, you can meet people who are working on fairly big projects, but at this point, one of the things that everybody's trying to scope out is how to construct a big project. Like, is there something else that the language needs to make a big project more understandable and comprehensible? Elm has this advantage, I think, which is because of the way it's built, the software is composable. So you can have all these separate components. And I think a story of Elm is actually partly that Elm and React have ended up going into very similar spaces. So if you think about how React and Flux are sort of creating this way of writing JavaScript in a certain style, Elm is sort of a language that embodies that and also embodies it. Yes, it totally is. No, it compiles to JavaScript. They're looking at making it executable over WebAssembly. The challenge there is that WebAssembly doesn't have a garbage collection, so so it would probably be there will probably be parts of it that would still have to be written in the wider JavaScript system. But then again, if there's any language that is going to be amenable to a non-garbage collected environment in the on the within the web browser, it's probably going to be Elm. Elm has these really firm foundations in functional languages and typing. It's very well thought out from that point of view. So they're very cautious about what they're doing. And again, this is why I draw the similarity between Rust and Elm. I think that Rust and Elm come from a generation of language designers who know all the literature about academic thought, about the best ways of writing computer languages or exciting new ways of writing computer languages, but they know how to map that out of the academic space and throw away some of the not baggage, but some of the things that make that confusing. And if you really want, it's a good pair of yeah. So I think that don't expect to write a big app in Elm right now. But frankly, the more I've played around with Elm, the more I've gone off and it helps me think about JavaScript as well. Yeah, there are a lot of things that don't render without JavaScript, and I sort of feel that is an interesting problem of the ecosystem, right? That people get left behind. I think one of the things that makes I'm less worried about that is that search engines have to deal with a limited amount of JavaScript. Hey, Studio Fortress. So there's an element to which there has to be a subset of JavaScript that can work. So I feel that I'm not too concerned about that. But then again, I mean, my day job is dealing with the politics of the open web. So a lot of what I deal with is governments imposing censorship or controls on these systems, and to a lesser extent, like big companies conspiring to break it. So I worry a bit less about these general trends, because sometimes people have the freedom to choose, often they're self-correcting. Gosh, so many things at the same time. Where were we? All right, so we were looking at so wow, that's really simple now. We basically say, does this equal this? And that is... So what we've been doing now is moving some of the logic of this program into the very good type system that Elm has. Previously, I had lots of like if-thens and like passing functions around, and I've just decided, whoa, I don't need any of this. I just need to define this card as having two states. Either it's a normal card or it's a card that matches. So we've buried the logic of this in the type system. Yeah, Studio Fortress, we were just talking about this. I don't think Elm is something that's quite ready for prime time, but like Elixir and a few other of these sort of cutting edge languages, it's sort of fun to see what the future of web development might look like, or some ways of thinking about it that make things easier. All right, so I'm going to run this, and did I change anything there? Probably not. Here we go. Now it's telling me list head model deck. I ran into something. Definition of a value. Line 48. I work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and my head is in a lot of these things. So the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, is we're kind of a civil liberties organization. Here, let me kick out the thing. So we do things like fight for people's right to use crypto and cryptography, and we've been suing the NSA for many years. The first pictures of Ed Snowden when he was first appeared on the scene, Ed Snowden has like an EFF sticker, and so one of the reasons why I end up learning a lot of this stuff is because what happens with the browser is really important for the future of the web as ACOTN. Bye, ACOTN. Go and check out his stream later on. And this stuff can really have a big effect on people's just freedom of society. One of the people I work with is a person called Cory Doctorow, who some of you may know as the writer of Little Brother. And Cory says that there aren't internet policy issues. There are just policy issues. How the browser work will affect the future that you grow up in. So I end up spending a lot of time learning this stuff. You are an EFF member. Excellent. Good. Well, you probably, your donation probably pays for my lunch sandwiches. So totally follow. And if you have any questions about EFF, I cannot give out legal advice. We do not have an attorney-client privilege, but I am always happy to talk about what we're doing. So, for instance, we have some awesome new stickers coming out for a bunch of folks like Allah. One of the issues that I deal with, I'm the international director at EFF, and one of the issues I deal with is imprisoned technologists, censored technologists, and these are the people that I spend a lot of time worrying about. Saeed Malikpour. If you're Canadian, write to just Trudeau, because he's a Canadian who's been imprisoned in Iran now for 7, nearly 8 years, and it's a tragedy. He's been tortured. He was sentenced to death twice, and basically for just producing open source software. So Trudeau has a real opportunity now to get him freed. I'm writing in the middle of writing a letter about that when I'm not programming. You can see why this is a useful stress relieving environment for me. I don't have to worry about international politics. I just have to worry about type systems. Okay, so it's telling us that list head, model deck, position. I'm looking for one of the things, the definition of a value. Now, usually Elm error messages are super, super good. Oh, look, it's because I've just got this left. I was going to say, usually they're good, but I don't make head nor tail of that. But in fact, it was a pretty straightforward thing. The reason why there are a lot of errors here is I'm actually doing a pretty substantial change to the guts of this program. And one of the ways that languages like Elm and Haskell and Rust, to a certain extent, make that easier is you make the change and then you just chase the compile errors, because once you've fixed all of those errors, the chances are that you've actually correctly refactored the program. All right, so card position. This does not surprise me. Oh, that's because it's just a bit of stray language. Did that run? Here we go. Okay, so these are the more complicated questions that I was figuring. The annotation, so this is where we say these are the types that we're expecting. The definition has this type. Right, so we've just defined card to be a more complicated type than this, but it used to have this structure, so it is really not surprising. So show card or not. Yeah, this is going to be the meat of this. Previously, we decided whether to show what's going on here is, if you look at the Elm, the dual end back grid, this is a loop in our view here, which is going through each of these. Turn that down a little bit. It's kind of distracting. So this is position 0. Do we show a card? Do we show a card? Do we show a card? And show card or not is the logic here, and you can see that basically either sets the style to gray or red in our case, so it's a blue blob in this case. And the problem at the heart of this is we find out whether we should show it or not here, where we say, get the card and look at its position element. Well, we've just changed the nature of our card to do more than just show a position. It also has this item here. So it used to just be here and you could get a position element. Now it could also be this. But that's okay. So we just need a function that is sort of position of card. And that should take a card and return an int. And position of card should equal case card of. First one we have is a normal card. And that'll have an I here, and we just return I. And then the other possibility we have is position matches back. And that's where it gets a bit tricky. This is the only place where we need to sort of go back in time. And in order to do that, we need the model. Which means that we need to throw the model to... The model is where we keep all the state. Oh, so is position the same? Show card or not needs the model. Kinda don't want to throw it around all the time. Maybe if we said let pause equal. Right, so right now we kind of pull out the top card here. Maybe we should just feed the model to all of these. Oops. It's so cool to have someone who's an EFF member as a follower. I'm really happy about that. One of the things that we have an awful lot of gamers as followers. A big chunk of EFF's money actually comes from the Humble Bundle. But gaming is huge, absolutely huge. And the subset of people who know about what we do is only really a small bunch of people who are like can see the ramifications of the technology that they use to play games. So I wasn't really expecting people to be super knowledgeable. But everyone is always impressive. Whenever I talk about EFF, like basically the world is divided between people who go, oh, EFF, I'm really excited. Oh, this is great. And people just go, I'm sorry, what? And have no idea about stuff. And then a tiny percentage of people go, oh, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I'm actually from the MPAA. And then we have a cage fight. Okay, so let's move this up here. Oops. Don't know what that error is. TC, am I putting that in the right place? Okay, this should be model. And we shouldn't return a cell. Just returning model deck. Actually, I had a good time with an MPA guy. So the MPA's sort of senior technology person actually lives in San Francisco, and he works pretty close to us, and so I haven't quite invited him to one of our parties yet. I'm not sure how that would play out, but he was really nice. I met him at the W3C. We were going to the W3C, and he was like, yeah, I'm from the MPA. I was like, yeah, I'm from the FF. Should we shake hands, or will that like be anti-matter kind of thing? Technologists who work for the MPA, technologists who work for these organizations are often in tremendously kind of conflicted positions. And they understand both sides of the argument. And, the MPA has, or the music industry has, and the movie industry have a lot of, perfectly good reasons for adopting the position that they are. And when we say, you're wrong, we don't mean in a sense of like, you're morally wrong. It's more like, the things that you think will fix this problem are just going to make things worse. Are just going to, like, locking down every computer, or trying to arrest everybody and increase the penalties for copyright infringement. It's not gonna fix this problem. And you can have a reasonable conversation with them. Oh, you did? Oh, I'm really glad that someone's actually been using Julian back. I did it for a while, and one of my incentives to do this is because I haven't found a good one. Which one do you? The Brain Workshop one, yeah, the open source one. I think I found that relatively later. All right, so where are we? List head model deck. Normal card. 52. Position of card, why is it getting... I sort of feel like I'm doing too many things at the same time. Case card. Oh, I understand, right. Assume back. Well, let's just make that 1 for now. indiv. Right. So we took all of that out. Cell. Position B equals cell, right? Okay, so this is, we're back to where we're actually fiddling around with this. So we're getting the card here, and then we can actually say just normal card B. Now it's going to complain, I think, that position equals cell. Oh right, we have to actually give the int here that is the current cell it's in. Did you find any improvement in your memory and ability to fly, iOS noob? Expecting 1, but got 2. Okay. Maybe it's a bracket. Oops. This card. Position of card. First branch is this type, but the second is number. Okay, so we're returning 2 different things here. I love these error messages. They're great. You just end up going through them all. The right argument is called a type mismatch. Equals expecting the right argument to be a maybe A, but the right argument is a card. Yeah, that's because we put it in. So maybe we say maybe just. Maybe is a type, and it can either be nothing or just and then a thing. So it's a way of conveying values that you don't know whether they really will exist. So if you're taking the top, in that case, if you're taking like the first element in an array, the first element in an array is mostly usually a thing. It's just a thing. But what if there's nothing in the array? So you return either just a thing. No, well, KDEX, you could do it, actually. You could probably write something like that. I mean, you can see you can see that this thing actually just compiles down to normal JavaScript. I'm not sure where it compiles it down. Let me see. Go to artifacts. Is it going to be in here? Where it lives. So, no, it's not. Where were we? Package and then back. You could do it, I think. I think you would have to set up a framework for it. And that's actually kind of a nice thing to do. I think that's part of future projects. Tooling back into a. I always think of Web App Manifest as a Firefox OS. thing. But it's not, of course. So we've been having this bit of a fight with the W3C at the FF about their adoption of DRM, and we've been trying to encourage them to take this pledge, like their patent agreement, to not sue people under the DMCA or DMCA-like laws in the rest of the world, because the US has exported its DMCA laws to the rest of the world. Anyway, this means I've been to the W3C, and I won't go into the deepness of all of that, but one of the funny bits of gossip about the whole thing is the W3C has offices in a few places, and one of their big offices is in the United States and is in Boston, and actually it's at MIT. And at the moment MIT is moving people around, and it may turn out that the W3C will end up sharing its office with Richard Stallman, which I think has great potential as a sitcom. If they could live stream that, that would be great. That would be just as good as Everyone Loves Eric S. Raymond. Okay. One. Where were we? Oh, right. It's just like, hi, Richard. Can I just get past you to the office fridge? GNU office fridge. Oh, to be a webcam on the wall when that goes down. Stillman's pretty amazing in terms of his predictive ability, and I know he drives people nuts, GNU nuts, but and I used to collect Stallman anecdotes. My favorite Stallman anecdote is when a guy, I think from Japan, came to visit him and was like totally in awe. It's Richard Stallman. This guy had worked on Hacked Emacs in Japan or wherever it was, and he'd actually translated Stallman's Emacs manual. Stallman not only wrote a huge chunk of Emacs, but he did almost all of the documentation. And at the end of their meeting, this person turned to Richard and said, "So I'd like to give you a gift. This is your manual, the GNU Emacs manual, in Japanese," whatever language it was. And Stallman says, "I don't want it." And the guy goes, "What have I done? Have I upset you in some way?" He said, "No, I don't speak Japanese, and I already know Emacs. Take it away. It's useless to me." And so you kind of have to view Richard through that filter. If you've ever read Illuminatus, which is the other references that I will always make in these streams, he really reminds me of Markov Cheney, the guy who lives off sardines and milk, and just devotes himself to destroying the system. And that's what Stallman did for a very long time. He just lived in his office. He lived in his office, and even when his apartment burned down, he would keep still hacking. I kind of admire it. Do admire it. All right, where are we with these error messages? List attribute. Oh God, you know you're in trouble when a is smaller than 0 is causing you pain. And that's upsetting because that was the first thing we were changing. Should be pretty simple though. No, it shouldn't. In there, okay. I don't know why that vanished. Oh, is this going to be hard? Oh, right, okay, because previously we returned a function here. We don't need to return a function here. This is actually the nub of making this easier to understand and use. Previously, we were creating a random function, like a function that returned a random value if you fed it things. And that just that just seemed a really bad idea. Um, so so now generate is expecting this. Why is generate expecting that? I think because when we get it back later on. Oh, because we actually freaking say it's that at the top. Look. I think it just returns a card now. Did you forget some parentheses? See, I love these error messages. Yeah, probably. Card maker. Right, we don't need that anymore. We just need so we're feeding this to add new card to deck. We can probably actually collapse add new card to deck as well. It's probably not something we really, let's move it up a bit to where it's actually being used. Oh, it's all the way down here. Right, so I think we just need card maker. Just need to call that card just to make things a bit simpler. Okay. Now we've probably screwed up all the parentheses. You need to account for the following values. So once again, and because we've made the type system so strong, it's now going, in this case, you need to deal with all the possible eventualities and then tells us what those eventualities. Some light on the politics between WhatWG and the W3C, which is more authoritative. They're both maintaining HTML specs that differ from one another. I'm actually going to find out a bit more about this this week. I'm going to spend some time, hopefully, talking to Ian Hickson. I'm not somebody who really knows all the details of this. There's a huge history, but right now, what's sort of interesting is they pass diffs between each other. So WhatWG is this living document, and the W3C has the standards process. I think that the easiest way for the outsider to understand the difference is that WhatWG, I think, really kind of reflects like the actual standard that's going on. No, not at all. It's in fact it's continuing, and the W3C picks up the changes from the WhatWG. What the W3C has is a patent policy. So if a standard goes through the W3C process, then companies in the W3C pledge to donate any patents that they have into that. And so that has some advantages, I think, for corporate implementers of standards. But the WhatWG, for many, many years, like actually pushed and defined the existing HTML standard. And hey, sorry. Milo Red Little Brother. It is talking. Yeah, no, actually, I should just loosen up about the fact that I live in one room with lots of other people. So yeah, we're talking about the WhatWG. Like 3 or 4 rooms. Yeah, well, yes, that's true, but they're thin walls. See, we make your donations go a long way. That's what we do here. I actually live literally in a shack in San Francisco. Sorry, I completely lost my thread. WhatWG. Yeah, so there are benefits to the standard going through both, but but I think there's a certain amount of frustration on both sides about that. Let me give you a link. It's worth reading Anne van Casteren's. I'll stick the link in. For the WhatWG side of things, you can read between the lines of the W3C's positions. It's obviously a bigger organization, but if you flick through that, you begin to see a little bit of the dynamics. But no, the WhatWG is not by any means over. Ian Hickson, who's really the main editor at WhatWG, was briefly the editor at the W3C, and then they parted again. Also, Ian, not a big fan of DRM, so all right. Error messages. Okay, so now we have to put in turn up our Sonor. Getting drowned out a bit. 64. Right, so we need just main. Right, that makes total sense, right? So this is where position matches back. This is where the nub of this activity is going to be. If sort of deleted the clever. Okay. I spent a while trying to work out what this should be, and then now I've deleted it. But okay, so we have the head. Yes, indeed, you're right. I will not tell you how much rent is, but it is not comparable with most shacks. This is what we live in. So these, not that one. These are the original shacks that, after the 1906 earthquake, good sinister music here to convey the mood. And everyone was living in tents in the parks here. The sort of early equivalent of FEMA constructed and delivered these small sheds to people to live in more safely in the parks. And then at the end of it, you could pay a little bit of money, and then you could hitch up your shack and you could take it to wherever the hole in the ground that your house used to be in, and then build it out. And people did that. People ended up building it out pretty widely, and I live in one of those. I live with my partner and 2 kids in a somewhat modernized earthquake shack. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the reasons we got it kind of cheap, I mean, we rent here, is because it's a historical place of interest. They couldn't actually turn it into the sort of house that was selling. Our landlords bought it, and they realized, wow, we can't really turn it into a swish apartment. So they rented it out, and we picked it up. It's pretty cozy. It's this green screen. If I pull down this green screen, you just see a pile of books. So there's my privacy gone. Okay, all right. Grinning man, go away, Brian Beckman. So, okay, I was actually literally in the middle of typing something, so that error message isn't going to help. All right, so list head. So what we want to do is take, I think it's this take model, is it still called model n? The number of, it's n back. So we're going to take, so if it's dual in back, so it's 2, then we want to take the first one away, and then the second one away, and then I think we get to it. So I'm not quite sure of the format of this, but okay, so we feed in the int first, which should be this. I'm just gonna look at actually in. Let's have a look at the previous versions of this. I just don't want to screw it up. It took me a while to work out what the actual value was. So when we're doing a view, show card or not, be position. Okay. I knew that is slightly different, but that's actually what started me on all of this, was that I didn't want this this seemed very risky for like fence post errors and things like that. This has a bit of a smell to it too, though. Just want to see if it works, though. This, again, the error message is great. That's fine, but I just want you to know that this is... Oh, right, we need to stick in a list head here. Yeah. I know this isn't going to work, but it makes me feel a bit more. Huh. Okay, no problem. Frodo? Oh, Gimli. I'm sorry. I always used to get you guys mixed up. Yeah, I'm now Gandalf, the Salt and Pepper. I am both a wizard and a rap duo from the 90s. How's the Dwarf Fortress doing? You still having that problem with cats? Wow, how long have I been on? This has been super interesting, but you bore me. No, it's... See, look, background color grey, my favourite colour as Gandalf. I really want to finish this and like get it in a stable position, otherwise I will have no idea. Is this the one with the doll? The poster with the doll? So really we need to pull this out of its so we want to say maybe with default 0. You want me to draw me like one of those ladies? But I'm not. I'm not now. I've done a maybe on it. I got maybe with default wrong. Maybe we try this. Can hack stuff naked. I'm actually entirely naked right now. This is just a complicated overlay. This beard is entirely CGI. Oh, right. Okay. Tricky. Don't really want to get into slowly constructing. Can we just say that? I just realised a problem with this. Oh, God. The problem I have is if we make it this type, it needs to be able to hop back in time, right? So the whole reason I did this type, yeah, I know, KDX. you've seen the problem too. So we've created this position matches back, but what happens? I think you just make it recursive. I think you just make it hop back repeatedly. I think we just have to create a function that does that. So yeah, look, we have this position of card business here. What we need to do is to put this in here. So it's like position of card B. Right. So we just need something which is like just clear all of this junky logic out of here. This makes it a lot nicer anyway. Equals cell. Okay, alright. And then we put all the real dirty stuff in here. No, this is Overwatch, the hells. Alright. So in this case... Oh, and like, we bounced around here because we didn't want to put the model here. But that's okay. That's okay. We'll just put the model in. It's only this one thing. recursion! I love it. It's just going to be position of card. And that card. And that will deal with the thing that I think both of us were a little bit worried about, Cadex. Listen to trolls or dwarves. Okay, end-back card, list head, blah blah blah. That all works. What is it? Say, rename it to something else. Oh no, we just say in. Oh no, look. We just need to put that somewhere else. You're looking for what? More letters in this name? Oh, in. I feel like we're so close. Yeah, so far, they're calling him this much. 58. Why does it think... Oh, okay. So, potentially... Do we just want to pull this out and have a strange default? So, supposing... in-back card is a real thing. I think we can just say... Oh, right. Well, the other thing is we need to fuel. Why does it think... Oh, because I've not improved type system. I think this goes back to me thinking that this was called n-back, and in fact it's called n. So now I have to... See how the error messages are like actually winnowing out all of the problems? Of course it would help if I actually just thought about this instead of like madly typing into it, but that's not what live streaming is about. This is the second live card, but it's maybe card. No, it's not. It's card. Look. We just pulled it out of that maybe. Is there another scenario where... Oh right, I get it. This is back to the problem we originally had. Well, if inbound card is nothing, then really position of card should be nothing too. We should actually return a just int. What does that break if we say that? maybe int rather. As well you might. Where did you infer it? So close. Said that a few hours ago. Why are you inferring position of card? I'm actually feeding. Do I ever feed it anything else? No. Is it because in-back card? No, in-back card is... In-back card is also adjust. Is there maybe... Okay, this is an error message that isn't quite as... If we just take out this definition. I might have to admit defeat and go a bit to bed. It's getting kind of late. At least we have like an error. Why are you inferring that the definition has this type? Why do you think that that middle thing that you're being given? Oh. Can you not destructure that far? Yeah, I'm not surprised this is breaking down now, but that's okay. did. Oh, right, up here. Sorry, it's got so quiet. Basically, I'm just like following these type errors back to because we have all these maybe types, and this is sort of the equivalent of dealing with error conditions, but the type system kind of forces you to think about them rather than you suddenly go, oh, I'll think about the errors later. Right, so what do we want under situations? Huh. That explains why you can do WebSockets over so many strange things. Kdex. Sorry, I'm talking to Kdex in the chat. Well, nothing will come of nothing. Aha, now the moment of truth. It all compiles. Stop that script. Wait, am I setting up an infinite loop? This is not good. Well, I guess no matter how much you type check things, you can't avoid the halting problem. Alright, is this because we haven't got a loop out of the recursion? No. There's only one recursion here. That seems to be the only place where a infinite loop would happen, right? So why don't we... Yeah, 200 of those. That doesn't seem good. Looks like NBAC card is not. Oh, right. It's because we need to actually feed it. We don't need to feed it the current list. We need to feed it. It needs to romp down the list rather than just look at the current one. That's interesting. Okay, so position of card. So rather than model deck, interesting. So tricky. keep getting simpler the more we do it though, right? I really feel like this is getting less complicated, which is not how these hacking sessions usually work. I want to give it the model, but I have to give it the n back. Fair enough. What are we returning? What are we returning here at this point? First branch returns maybe cell. Does it? No, it's an int. God, okay, that's because we haven't put. Index stays the same during recursion. Hello, Katarsis. How you doing? We are deep in messing with strongly typed functional programming languages. And if you were to ask me what I was doing right now, I'd probably give you an explanation, but I'd prefer it if you didn't. We're kind of deep in the weeds. Wow, it's hot in here. Look at the heat haze I've got on me. It was great. It was pretty awesome this week. I really do find doing these things super calming. Really help me. Otherwise, it's just my mind keeps worrying. I mean, it's worrying now, but it's worrying about maybe variables. Do other people find programming calming? Do any of you work as programmers? I imagine it would be more stressful. I am in San Francisco. And place has been full of Pokemon Go players, basically. Me and my partner play a lot of Ingress. And so which was the game that Niantic did before Pokemon Go. So a lot of the Pokestops are actually things that people have created in Ingress. So I wouldn't say it gave people a head start, but it was very funny to see people chasing their Pokemon around all of these places that we knew. I should wrap this up. I just want to finish this thing. So close. Will it infinitely loop? It's not looking promising. Hey, Chicken Skill. Yeah, when a browser freezes like that, that's not good news. Oh, I may go away. I feel my CPU is increasing, which occasionally happens. Alright, debug script, please. Not that script. Not laughing Brian Beckman. No, they're taken from Ingress. They're taken from this game that Niantic did before before Pokemon Go, and in fact, in that, sorry, part of the game was you contributed local things near to you. I think it was like basically initially inhabited with like just churches and things like that. That was like a default. But most of them were created or contributed by Ingress players. Ingress players, some of them are a little bit bitter. I sense that. If you go to the Ingress Reddit, some of them are like, all these noobs. Alright, I think I'm going to shut this down because I've been doing it a long time and I'm now in infinite loop time. Die, Firefox, die. Trolling is not. Debug the script. Alright, so it's still looping. It's kind of sad. Still, I'm just getting the hang of type systems and all of this, but I must admit I am not the world's master of recursion. So just position matches back. Goes to position top of card of top card. It's this. Use the end back deck, so that should be smaller than the existing deck. Just going to put some debug commands here and see what's happening in this recursive loop. No, it's not. It will derive the signature. It's got very good type deriving, but it's sort of recommended that you do it because sometimes the clash between what you thought was the signature and what is actually going on can reveal some problems. What does that mean? Oh wait, I'm in the wrong window. What situations would this recurse? We're taking down the deck. Deck is getting smaller. There we go. Okay, so the deck is one. Interesting. So why would the deck be that? That should never happen. Position 3. There should be another one. Is it just... Is the deck actually not really the deck? That is the problem. Right. We're taking the top, but we're not. We should be leaving it. We should be dropping. I'm such an idiot. Is it still? Yeah. Still not working. Dude, notice it slow down. Stop it. I beg you. Okay, debug script. Strange error. Why is it? start off this way. Kind of want to clear this. Start with another window. Hit reload. Oh, look. This looks a bit better. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. That is in fact an end back. Well, that was a bit of hard work, but we now are back to exactly where we were before, with a much nicer structure, I think, anyway. And that basically consisted of us changing the type slightly and then just following all the error messages back. And we got a little bit into trouble in the end there, but we ended up with a really nice sort of recursive definition of is position the same. I think we can probably refactor this a little bit more, and the whole basis of this feels a lot nicer to me. Okay, I'm going to call it and let's see exactly what we changed. So look, we made the card not just have a position, but also say this matches a previous position. We didn't actually just copy the previous position. Then that enabled us to simplify got random card much more. We didn't have to return a function that was dependent on model. We could just return a card, which is what you would imagine. This got a lot simpler too. So this row and 3 lines of like playing around with functions. It's pretty straightforward what that is doing. Did this get any easier? Add new card to deck. I don't know where. Oh, we just moved that, I think. Oh, let's get rid of these debug statements. Position the same, just really got all of this just got smarter and simpler. I think really the only bit that it's got a little bit, the position of top card got a little bit more complicated, but then we only really need to use that in show card or in this view. I think we can probably collapse a lot of this stuff, but I will save that for another time. Yeah, I'm happy with that. This is Git Cola, so I like it. It's a very simple Git program, managing program. Thank you everybody for watching along, if you did, and I hope it wasn't too confusing if you joined us later than normal. Music, such as it was provided by Sonor, which sounds much ruder than it is. It's nice music from the Free Music Archive, CC licensed. And you can read the code there, up on Code Therapist GitHub. have a great rest of your night, or if you're getting up early, have a good day. See you next time.